Boker Tov. Today's daf is Daf Tesvav in Nidrim. We started yesterday. We saw the Mishnah. We got really to the top of the page, but let's take it again from the Mishnah so we'll be clear about this. Says the Mishnah on Yudalin base. Kodem shani yoshen shani medaber. Again, he says I can't speak, but he says it in the form of a konim, which is a neder, not a shvua. He says I'm not going to sleep. Shani I'm not going to talk. Shani mehach I'm not going to walk. So it sounds, or if he says, I tells his wife that we're not going to be intimate, it's mashma that there's an Isur D'Oraisa here of lo yachad baro. How does that work? How do you make a carbon? Remember, a neder we said is chal on an object, on a finite item, on a solid, a concrete thing, on a substance, not something which is abstract. How does that work? It says lo yachad baro. You're over on all these things, even though you didn't answer something specific, you didn't answer an item. Say, I'm not going to sleep, I'm not going to talk. Make it like my talk is a carbon, my sleep is a carbon, my walking is a carbon. I'm not going to have shimish with you. In other words, again, there's no object over here. How does that work? But the Mishnah is so we'll see what this is talking about. Says the Gemara, Itmar. Listen very carefully now. Itmar, I forbid my eyes to sleep today. So the prohibition is, there's a prohibition as a condition. If I sleep tomorrow, I can't sleep today. So now, let's say I slept today, but I don't sleep tomorrow, right? The condition was if I sleep tomorrow, then it's prohibited for me to sleep today. Let's say I slept today, but I didn't sleep tomorrow. I didn't violate anything because I didn't sleep tomorrow. I didn't fulfill the condition. The condition is tomorrow. The prohibition is today. Rabbi Yehuda says this is going to be deal with Rabbi Yehuda Marav. Al Yoshan, you shouldn't sleep today. Because maybe you'll fall asleep tomorrow, right? Don't sleep today. Don't do the prohibition today. If I sleep, whatever happens at the end of today, I didn't do it. I wasn't over anything yet. But if I slept tomorrow, then I was over if I slept today. So Rabbi Yehuda says, don't sleep today because maybe you'll fall asleep tomorrow. And then retroactively, you'll be over on the prohibition. And you can sleep today. Just be careful not to sleep tomorrow. Again, the condition is tomorrow, the prohibition is today. So that's the issue over here. If I fulfill the condition tomorrow, I'll be over the prohibition today. So can I do the prohibition today? It's not really a prohibition yet. It's only prohibition if I'm going to fulfill the condition tomorrow. Rabbi Yehuda says you shouldn't. Don't sleep today, because lest you come to be over tomorrow. Maybe you'll fulfill the condition tomorrow. Nachman says don't worry about it. Just make sure you don't sleep tomorrow. Umod Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda says, let's say the condition is today. If I sleep today, I won't sleep tomorrow. Then you could sleep today. You know why? Because he says, if I sleep today, I can't sleep tomorrow. Okay, you could sleep today. Today's the condition, right? Just make sure you don't sleep tomorrow. There, Rabbi Yehuda's motive, you could sleep today. In the first case, Rabbi Yehuda says, don't sleep today. Don't do the prohibition today, lest you fulfill the condition for the prohibition tomorrow. But if the condition is today and the prohibition is tomorrow, if I sleep today, I won't sleep tomorrow. You could sleep today. Just make sure you won't sleep tomorrow. What's the difference? Person's not careful about the condition. Meaning, the prohibition was today. Rabbi Yehuda says, don't sleep today. Because today is the prohibition. And if you so just make sure you don't sleep tomorrow, like Rav Nachman says, right? Just make sure you don't sleep tomorrow. Yeah, but the condition you're not so makbid about. When you're not supposed to do something, you're makbid about that. Don't do that. Don't violate Shabbos. Don't eat treif. That you know. But a condition you're not going to be so makbid about. So if you do the condition today, if you do the prohibition today, Rabbi Yehuda says you might do the condition tomorrow. You're not going to be thinking about it because tomorrow is just the condition. It's not the prohibition. So Rabbi Yehuda says if you say I'm not going to sleep today. If I sleep tomorrow, don't sleep today, lest you come to sleep tomorrow. But if I said don't sleep, if I sleep today, I won't sleep tomorrow. Then the prohibition is tomorrow. The prohibition you'll be careful about. You could sleep today. That's what Rabbi Yehuda says. Now we're going to deal with the first case of Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda says, if I say I can't sleep today, if I'm prohibited from sleeping today, if I sleep tomorrow, Rabbi Yehuda says, don't sleep today. Don't sleep today. Yeah, but Nachman says, just don't sleep tomorrow. You won't have a problem. Yeah. But we're afraid you will sleep tomorrow because tomorrow is just the condition. So don't do the prohibition of sleeping today. What about our mission? Is our mission to prove to this at all? Tanan, this is where we left off yesterday, second line on Daf Tesvav. Tanan, Kodem Shani Yashin. If a man says, I swear I'm not going to sleep, he really says like a carbon. Konim is a kinui for a carbon. He prohibits himself from sleeping. Shemach that I'm going to watch him, I'm going to speak. Our Mishnah said all those things. What's the case? If it's the way we said it, is that a netter? That's not even a netter. A carbon on my sleep. I prohibited myself from sleeping in the form of a carbon. I didn't make a shvur that I'm not going to sleep. I said a carbon that I'm not going to sleep. But Tanan Chomer Shvur, we're going to have this later on. We had it before. We had it before on Yom Beis, but the Mishnah's later on. It's really about Tanya. He says on the side, but it's not a Mishnah. Chomer Shvur, the Shvur has a stringency over the Dharm, and Dharm has a stringency over Shvur. Shvur chal even on, like you said, an abstract thing, even something that doesn't have substance or is not concrete, like sleep. Sleep is not something you can touch. It's an abstract concept, right? You fall asleep, but there's no physical object over here. You can't pick up sleep. So how's it chal anyway? How can you make a netter about sleep? Oh, I tell you what I did. My eyes are prohibited from sleeping. So it's going on my eyes, right? My eyes are prohibited from sleeping. If I didn't say a certain amount, if I didn't give a time limit on it, do we allow him? Person says, I'm never going to sleep again, right? Or my eyes are prohibited from sleeping again. Do we allow him to do that? When it comes to a shvur if a man swears, let's say a man says, I'm not going to sleep today. Okay, better not sleep, but you're going to be over. Let's say he says, I'm not going to sleep for 3 days. That's considered impossible. You're going to fall asleep within 72 hours. Says, I'm not going to sleep 2 days. Malchus, so we give him Malchus for a shvur shav. That's a false shvur. It's like saying, I swear this is made out of gold, and it's not. So that's called a shvur shav. Here also.
How can you make a netter on something you may not have control?
That's right. That's right. You can't do it.
You know?
That's same with shvur. You can't be. You won't have control over it. Right. Exactly. And since you won't have control, and therefore what you're doing is it's like saying, I have no control to make this into gold, and I say this is gold. It's the same thing. It's impossible. It's impossible.
Right.
So therefore you can't do it. So if that's the case, by a shvur we say it's a shvur shav. And even though by netter it wouldn't be a netter, the netter also, it's not a shvur shav, it's a netter, but you at least be the netter's not chal, it's not a good netter. You can go to sleep right away because it's meaningless. It's not a shvur. You make him swear. You give him malchus for a shvur shav. Malkanoso, if it was a shvur, meaning it's not a real shvur. It's only a shvur shav. It's not a shvur which is chal upon him. It's not a prohibition. It's not binding upon him. So there's nothing. He could go to sleep right away. So how can you make a netter? Even if you say the netter's chal my eyes are prohibited from sleeping. Is it limitless? Then it's meaningless. It doesn't work. It's not a netter. It must be a case like we're talking about. Like we saw with the Gemara, the machlokes between Rav Nachman and Rav Yehuda, where he said, listen, my eyes are prohibited from sleeping tomorrow if I sleep today. When's the condition? Today. When's the prohibition? Tomorrow. Everybody says it. What's the problem with that? Why does the Mishnah say you're over in Bal Yachal? It says, our Mishnah said, if I sleep, I'm going over in Bal Yachal. Why am I over Bal Yachal? That's not a netter. That's not a net. Why am I over Yachal? Oh, maybe you're telling me if I sleep today, I can't sleep tomorrow. If I sleep tomorrow, if I sleep today, I'm not going to sleep tomorrow. Okay, so that's not a problem. So you could sleep today. Just make sure you don't I can't sleep tomorrow if I sleep today. Again, the prohibition is tomorrow if I sleep today. Okay, so it says Mishnah you're over by Yachal. Why over by Yachal? Even Rabbi Yehuda's moda that on the Isser part of I said I can't sleep tomorrow. I'm prohibited from sleeping if I sleep today. So sleep today. What's the problem? Just make sure you don't sleep tomorrow. If I sleep today, there's a prohibition to sleep tomorrow, right? Okay, so don't sleep tomorrow. And if it's an Isser, people can guard themselves, and that's what Rabbi Yehuda said. Elab Shita. So why is there over by Yachal? Here's what happened. I prohibit myself from sleeping today. If I sleep tomorrow. Okay. Now, why would I get Bayachal? Why would I be over Bayachal? Only if I slept today. And then I sleep tomorrow. Then I can't sleep today. So obviously, if I say I can't sleep today, if I sleep tomorrow, the condition's tomorrow, and it says I'm over Bayachal, must be because I slept today. You're over by Yachal when you're over on the neder. The neder is, I'm not going to sleep today if I sleep tomorrow. Rabbi Yehuda said in that case, don't sleep today. Well, the Mishnah says you're over in by Yachal. It's mashma, you did sleep today. Vilo naim, if you didn't sleep today, Vilo naim, if you didn't sleep today, kinam mocher mai by Yachal tvaroika. So what if I fill the condition tomorrow? If I didn't sleep today, the issur was if I sleep today, and if I sleep tomorrow, I can't sleep today. The prohibition is today if I sleep tomorrow. But if I don't sleep today, there's no prohibition, right? I could sleep tomorrow. If I sleep tomorrow, I shouldn't sleep today. But I didn't sleep today. So shouldn't be any issue. So why over by Yachal in the Mishnah? You went to sleep today. Even though you said, I'm not going to sleep. If I sleep tomorrow, I can't sleep today. You slept today. You see that you did sleep at Tiftar versus Kashan of Yehuda. Because Yehuda said, if I made a net and I said, if I sleep tomorrow, I can't sleep today. You shouldn't sleep today because maybe you'll fulfill the condition tomorrow and you're not going to be careful about the condition. So, but our Mishas Mashbi over by Yachas Mashbi, you did sleep today. So the answer is very simple. Kiktani Di'inayim. Rabbi Yehuda says you shouldn't sleep today. But if you did sleep today, and then you fulfill the condition tomorrow by sleeping tomorrow, then you're over by Yachal. That's the first answer. It's very simple. Our Mishnah says, yes, maybe our Mishnah is speaking about a case where I said, I can't sleep today if I sleep tomorrow. Okay. What does Rabbi Yehuda say in that case? Don't sleep today, because maybe you'll fall asleep tomorrow. Don't sleep today. Okay, but if you did sleep today, and you slept tomorrow, then you're over today. That's what our Mishnah is talking about. If you're over, then you're over by Yachal.
What this person is saying. What difference does it make?
Why would he do that? Why would he do that? He's trying to learn, and he's sitting at the Shiur here, and he's falling asleep. So he prohibits himself from falling asleep. I'm going to keep my eyes open no matter what. When I was a kid, I remember I wanted to wait up for slichas. My father said, "Well, take it to slichas at midnight." I was like, "Okay, I'll wait." And I sat and I fell asleep. You prohibit yourself in a way because you're trying to accomplish something. Ravina gives a different answer. Ravina Malol Kedaktani. It's very, we said the mission is very simple. Very simple. You don't have to go with his business about you didn't sleep. If I sleep today, I didn't sleep tomorrow. Very simple. He just says shouldn't sleep. That's not a shvua. How does a netter chal? Netters be chal on an item. It can't be chal on sleep. Umay vayacham and rabbanan. This is rabbanan. Very simple. Good. When we say that a shvu is chal even on an abstract idea, and a net is only chal on a physical thing, so how could you be over by yachal if I say I make a carbon, I'm not going to sleep? The answer is you're over by yachal rabbanan. There's no malchus minator. Then rabbanan. Is there such a thing? Ain't. There is. Vatanya we learned dvarim mutarim. Something which is mutter, and it's known that it's mutter. So let's say there are certain things which are mutter, but some people are machmer, and they have an issue, they don't do those things. You're not allowed to be matter. Don't break your word. It's like we're saying, you have to be a man of your words. Never break your word. Even if you said bli neder, or you didn't say something with great force, but a man of your word, I'll be there. Can we count on you for 10th person for the minyan? Sure, I'll be there. Don't break your word. You may have said bli neder, I'm coming. Don't break your word. Even when it comes of an issur, not talking about something which the person thinks it's usur and he's mistaken about it. Before I say, no, it's mutter, but he's no ega chumrah. That's his minhag. You shouldn't be matter it. Why? Lo yachal dvaro. Lo yachal dvaro is really going, and the Torah is going on a neder. You made a neder, lo yachal dvaro. Then there's an issur in malchus if you're over on the neder. But if you're not talking, even if it's not a neder, not really a neder, like in our Mishnah, you're over drabbanan. Okay, that's a way to answer the Mishnah also. So our Mishnah doesn't have to be explained. The Mishnah didn't say, I'm not going to sleep. If I sleep tomorrow, I'm not going to sleep today. The Mishnah didn't really say that. You want to interpret it that way because why else would it be usur? Otherwise, there's you prohibited your eyes from sleeping. What, forever? It's not a neder at all. You can't. That's impossible. Like Kurt said, you can't do something you have no control over. It's impossible to fulfill it. So maybe it's this kind of a condition. No, the truth is maybe I did say stam, I'm not going to sleep, and you're not really over on it. It's not really a neder them in a Torah, but in the Rabbanan, the over on Vayachal Dvaro. Try to bring a pry from another case. Listen, we're going to have later on a Mishnah. Tanan, listen to this case very carefully. The man, we're in the middle of the winter, like now. It's Cheshvan, Kislev, Adar, we're in the winter. And a man tells his wife, he's sick and tired of his wife running every minute to her mother. So he says, listen, you can't have any pleasure from me all the way till Pesach if you go to your parents from now until next Sukkot. I don't want you showing up there. You're not flying to LA anymore. You're not going to visit them anymore. And if you do, you can't have anah for me until Pesach. What's first? Pesach comes first and then Sukkot, right? Yeah. So Holcha Lifnei Pesach, if she went before Pesach, Asur B'Naso had a Pesach. Now, you understand? So it says here, you can't have anah for me until Pesach if you go to your parents' Arachag. If she went right away, Holcha Lifnei Pesach, so obviously she can't have anah till Pesach, because he said anytime between now and next Sukkot, if you go, you can't have anah till Pesach. So if she went right away before Pesach, sometime now in the winter, you can't have anah. Holcha Lifnei Pesach, Asura, lo ochalo. But if she didn't go before Pesach, then she could have anah. Even though, what was the condition? If you go even next summer, anytime until next Sukkot, if you go, you can't have until Pesach. Well, according to Rabbi Yehuda, you shouldn't go at all. You shouldn't have an at all till Pesach, because maybe she'll go sometime afterwards. That's like, I'm not going to sleep today if I sleep tomorrow. Rabbi Yehuda said, don't sleep today lest you sleep tomorrow. Rabbi Nachman says, no, just make sure you don't sleep tomorrow. But according to Rabbi Yehuda, in this case, this is the same case. He said, don't have enough for me until Pesach, right? You can't have enough from Pesach if you go to your parents anytime between now and next Sukkot. If she went to her parents right away, of course, she can't have enough till Pesach. But if she didn't go before Pesach, she could have enough till Pesach. Why? Maybe she'll go Shavuos time. Maybe she'll go there then, according to Rabbi Yehuda. Amar Baba, Amar Baba, before Pesach, and she had enough from her husband, she was over on the neder, and she would get malchus. Right? According to Ran and other Mefarshim, only she gets malchus, not him. Lo holcha, if she didn't go, asur b'alma, then it's asur. But when he says over here that holcha lifnei Pesach asur b'nas out of Pesach, holcha lifnei Pesach asur lo holcha, it doesn't mean that if she didn't go, it's not asur. It's asur. It's asur b'alma. Like Rabbi Yehuda says, don't go lest you come, because maybe, in other words, you shouldn't have anah. If she went before Pesach, then she's asur to have anah from her husband, and she would get malchus if she had a because she violated the letter for sure. If she didn't go to her parents before Pesach, it's still asur for her to have anah from her husband until Pesach, because maybe she'll go afterwards. Maybe she'll catch a cheap flight and go afterwards. So then it's asur b'alma. So that's how Rabbi Yehuda will learn. Ain't a sefer, but this is still a problem with the sefer, because the sefer says over there. What about achara Pesach? Let's just finish this. Achara Pesach. Okay, it says over there after the Pesach. If she goes after the Pesach, then over in Bayachol. Below the sign of the Pesach. Obviously, if she didn't have anah before Pesach, it was if she went to her parents after Pesach. Again, after Pesach is before Sukkot. That was the condition. If you go to your parents before Sukkot, can't have anah before Pesach until Pesach. So it says over there, achara Pesach. If she went after Pesach, you're over in Bayachol Dvaro. Obviously, that means that she had anah. Why are you over in Bayachol? Because she had anah. Idlo Desani. If she didn't have anah from Pesach, is there any Bayachol? Elipshita Desani. So you see, she did have anah. In other words, her husband said, "Don't have anah from me before Pesach until Pesach. If you go to your parents all the way until Sukkot." It says if she went afterwards, after let's say in the summer she went before Sukkot, she went to her parents. She's over in Bayachol. So that means that she did have anah. Alma Mistani. So you see, you could have anah before Pesach. You could have anah. In other words, you can be over on the prohibition because maybe you won't fulfill the condition later on. The Tiftu Rav Yehuda, again, Kiktani De'i is Hani. That's what he means. If sure, according to Rav Yehuda, she shouldn't go, she shouldn't have anah from her husband at all before Pesach. Husband says, don't have anah from me until Pesach. If you go to your parents all the way till next Sukkot. So according to Rav Yehuda, she shouldn't have any anah from her husband until Pesach. Make a separate kitchen, no anah from her husband at all before Pesach. Why? Because she might come to be over. She might come to visit her parents afterwards. Of course, if she didn't visit her parents and she wasn't open by Yachol. What he's saying is, if she did have anah from her husband, then she went to her parents before Sukkot, raised by Yachol Dvaro. Again, the same kind of an answer. What were you asking?
But then they actually get divorced if they don't have to be.
Yeah. It could technically it would almost be they'd have to live separately. Correct. Mm-hmm. It's a terrible thing that they either have to get divorced or be maternetter.
Yeah.
Be maternetter. Yeah, it'd be a very difficult thing. How can you say you can't have any anah from me? It's impossible for them to live together. Or like some people where the husband's always traveling or something of that sort. Remember we talked about that. Is he allowed to set up somebody else to help her during that time? He said, have anah. But he said simply all anah. Yeah, it would be almost impossible. You'd have to either get divorced or be maternetter. Tznan. The Mishnah goes on there. Shanas the arachag, the other way around. He's in the winter. you can't have enough for me all the way until now. Now the Isser, the prohibition is on Sukkot, not the prohibition until Pesach. You can't have enough for me until next Sukkot. If you go at any time between now and Pesach, you go to your parents, you can't have enough for me all the way until next Sukkot. If she went before Pesach, right? She fulfilled the condition, then Asura Banas Arachag. Because the condition was if you go to your parents until Pesach. After Pesach, she's allowed to go. After Pesach, there was no issue on visiting her parents after Pesach. She's allowed to. The Ran says the Chiddush is you're not concerned that maybe she'll think that if you allow her to go afterwards, she's allowed to go before. Fine, but Holcha Asur, only if she went before Pesach, then it's Asur. Lo Holcha. If she didn't go, lo, it's not Asur for her, right? Only if she went. Otherwise, right, it's not also to have a nah if she didn't go. Why? According to Rav Yehuda, you shouldn't have a nah anyway, because maybe you will go before Pesach. It's now in Adar, it's in the winter. Or a Cheshvan, Kislev Adar now. And he said, if you have a nah from me till Pesach, you can't go till Sukkot. Okay, so if she had a nah, I'm sorry, if she went to her parents before Pesach, she can't have a nah until Sukkot. So if she went before Pesach, then it's also mashma that if she didn't go before Pesach, she's allowed to have a nod from her husband. Why? Maybe she'll still go. Maybe it's still in the middle of the winter. It says if you go to your parents now between now and Pesach, can't have enough from you all the way till Sukkot. So if she went to her parents, then she can't have a nod. But if she didn't go to her parents, he could have a nod. How could you have a nod? How could you have a nod? Maybe you'll still go to your parents. According to Rav Yehuda, you shouldn't do it because maybe you'll still go to your parents. Maybe you'll fulfill the condition. Again, we said before, even if she didn't go, it's asur according to Rav Yehuda. Holcha asur v'lo, like we gave the first answer. If she went, then she gets malchus. Lo holcha asur b'alma, like we said before. If she didn't go, it's only an isur. It's only an isur to go because maybe she'll be over. But there's no like we said, we gave that answer before. We said if she didn't go, it's only an isur b'alma. She won't get malchus. Again, if she fulfilled the condition, she went to her parents. And she had an odd, then you get malchus. She was over on the netter. If she didn't fulfill the condition, she didn't go to her parents, then it's also for her to go have an odd anyway. Just saying it's not that it's permitted, it's also. It's also according to Rav Yehuda. Who identified lo chasur, ho chasur v'loka, lo chasur b'alma. Mesa, another kash. Similar thing. Kikazu alai hayom. This loaf of bread is also for me today. Imelech l'makom ploni tomorrow. So if I go to Chicago tomorrow, imelech l'makom ploni l'machar. If I go to Chutz La'aretz. Also to go to Chutz La'aretz, right? So he shouldn't go to Chutz La'aretz. That's not a good excuse unless you're going for a mitzvah. If I go to Chutz La'aretz tomorrow, then the bread is also to me today. Okay, so it sounds like when you eat it, right? You shouldn't go, right? Because if you eat it, then you're going to be over if you fulfill the condition. Mashma you could eat it. Mashma you could go. If you go, right? If you eat it, then you're going to be over. If you fulfill the condition of going to Chutz La'aretz, you'll be over retroactively. So you could eat it. You could eat it. Contributor, you're not supposed to eat it because maybe you'll wind up going and fulfill the condition. The answer is no. Mitani ochel doesn't say ochel. Ochel tani. The Havamini assume that the way he said it was you ate it and then you shouldn't go. Make sure you don't go. He says no. It doesn't say ochel. You're allowed to eat it. Ochel tani. If you eat it, you shouldn't eat it according to Yehuda. But if you ate it, then you make sure you don't go to Chicago. Don't go to Chutz La'aretz because when you go to Chutz La'aretz, you'll fulfill the condition and retroactively you would be over on Bal Yachal. Okay, but what about the Sefer? The Sefer says over there, it doesn't say you can go. Now, we're assuming this is a separate thing. In other words, if Mahalach says you can go, right? You can go to Chutz La'aretz, in Mashma, you can go. Why? Because you didn't eat it. Because you didn't eat. But it doesn't say you could go lechatchila. V'kashel Rabbi Yehuda. Why? Because if it's Mahalach sounds like, you're allowed to, according to Rabbi Yehuda, you should be able to, you shouldn't be able to go at all. You shouldn't be Mahalach. Why does it say halach? If you went, then you're over in Bayachal. You're over in Bayachal. Why? Because apparently you did eat the roll. It doesn't say Mahalach that lechatchila you can go because you didn't eat it. According to Rabbi Yehuda, you shouldn't be able to eat the loaf of bread lest you go. So why does it say Halach hareza b'vayachol dvaro, mahalach lo mashma, you can't go l'chila, meaning you can't go because you did eat it. The kashla Yehuda, no, who did less than you really could say mahalach because you're not supposed to eat the bread, right? So therefore you could go. But I think Tani Reisha, since the Reisha said achal, the low mess you can't say you could eat it because he also you're not allowed to eat it. It says if you ate it, then you shouldn't go. Tani Sefer Nami halach, that the same lashon of that just like if you ate it. And then, so it's the safe is connected to the ratio. If you ate it, you shouldn't be over Bayachol. And if you did go, you're over in Bayachol because it's like one long thing. It's not a separate case. If it would be a separate case, you could say, okay, then he should have said you shouldn't eat it. And you can go to Chutz La'aretz, and if you go to Chutz La'aretz, you're not over Bayachol if you didn't eat it. But the fact is, we're speaking about Achol if you did eat it. If you did eat it, and then you shouldn't go. Achol. You shouldn't go because then if you ate it and then you fulfill the condition by going to Chutz La'aretz, you'll be over by Yachol. So you're babal yelech, you shouldn't go. And if you did go, it's like one long thing. But in a Hanami, since we asked all these questions of Rav Yehuda, but we tried to set up like Rav Yehuda, Ran says the halach is like Rav Yehuda. If I say I'm not going to sleep tomorrow, if I sleep today, that's okay because the Isser will be tomorrow. The conditions today, the prohibitions tomorrow. That's okay if you can be careful. Since we go back and forth, the whole Gemara today was about Rav Yehuda. Like him. The end of the Mishnah said that if a person prohibits himself from having intimacy with his wife, how are you allowed to do that, right? How are you allowed to do it without getting divorced, right? You're not supposed to do that. So the Gemara says, you're over on Bayachal. The Mishnah said you're over on Bayachal. He has a shibud to fulfill the obligation. She has an obligation to sleep with him. He has an obligation to sleep with her. The Torah says, remember it says that? So it was a machlokas, which one is Sheira, which was Ona. Ona is generally considered to be that he has to sleep with her, right? They have to be live as husband and wife. So he has an obligation in the Torah. How could he, if he has an obligation to do it, how can he go against that? So the answer is right. If he swears he's not going to have beer with his wife, that doesn't work. But when he prohibits the hana of tashmish on himself, in other words, he's prohibiting something on himself. He doesn't want the tashmish. So he's saying he's prohibiting himself. He's not saying I'm not going to sleep with her. He has an obligation to her, but he made it out. So let's say she said, I don't want to have beer with you. You're tashmish kafana, so she has to have beer with her. The shibud mishamsle, she's mishubatim. She's obligated to sleep with him. Let's say she says the hana of your tashmish. I prohibit myself from having hana. She's making herself a netter on herself. She's making a netter. I'm not going to eat oranges. I'm not going to have the tashmish you. Also, you can't give somebody which is also to him. If a person prohibits himself from eating oranges, you can't give him oranges. If she prohibited herself from having hana, from having tashmish with him, you can't feed that to him. The same way he prohibits himself from having hana from tashmish with her. So it's a neder. Here the Ran says, like take a look at the Ran. How do I describe this? You see in the Ran where Rashi is a Mishnah. You see Masnisin in the Mishnah in Rashi, about 10 lines from the bottom of Rashi. Then right even there, Linyan Allah, I just quoted that before. That's the Allah we hold like a Yehuda before. And then two lines afterwards it says, V'amina Torah mishabedla. How can he prohibit himself from her? He's mishubater. My kashlev arminim perkafel. We learning subas the konim is kedush zaguf ninu. Konim is like kedush zaguf. Umafkiya mishibud. Like if a person has a shibud to pay something and he's makdashid, a konim is like a kedush zaguf. It's like a carbon, it's like kedush zaguf, and that can take away a shibud. So what's your problem? Just like there's a shibud of al hachnami amur rabban shibud of the isha, and she has a shibud, that shibud that she has, that he's meshubah to her, that he's obligated to have beer with her, that's stronger. The answer is if he asks himself on her, he can't do that. He's obligated to her beer. He can't say, I'm not going to have beer with you. I'm not going to have beer with you. Because like that beer belongs to her. He can't ask her the beer on her. Where he said the hana of tashmish with you is also on me. Shu also al atzmo tashmishu. Also al atzmo shespiyar is allowed to. Who could have counted on Meshisha? Yachol also al nafs nafsha tashmish bala aleh. Became the nidram meshkachel. Since the neder finds a place to be chayil, it takes effect. Umemela pakashibrusa. Dim tamar. We're at the first of the widest lines in the Ran now. If you're following me, Dim tamar. I don't understand. This neder is only drabanan. Tastas of shishlesh mishav. Remember, a neder has to be chal on an item, right? What did he answer? He answered the tashmish, the hana, the pleasure of the hana. He answered upon himself, and that's how it's chal, right? He's not answering an object because he's answering an act over here. The pleasure of the act is also on himself. Well, that's not a neder. Neder has to be chal on an item. On an item.
Isn't that a standard neder? Where you say, I won't have any hana from you.
No, very good. No. You answered all my assets. You can't have enough of my assets. The assets are a physical thing. I can't have enough from the orange. That's how the neder works. So here he's answering an abstract idea. He's answering pleasure. And that that's an abstract thing. He's answering pleasure. Pleasure is not a physical thing. But I said, okay, your body is also. So the Mishnahs talk about speaking, talking, walking, sleeping, right? Things like that. Sleeping, talking, walking. Those things are not physical. Right? If he says your body is forbidden to me, okay. Yeah, right. That would be that we don't say that's a neder. Now at the end we're saying that the neder is chal, right? But he says why neder can't be chal on hana if he's asking the guf, it's one thing. So maybe asking the guf. No, he didn't do that because we're talking about the whole mission. Speak about abstract things, medaber, mahalach, sleeping. All those things are abstract. So this is also abstract. And Rabina, said in Amanal, right? We're speaking about it's only Mr. Rabbanan because there's no net of chal over here. We came to Rabbanan, the Almu. Remember, Rabina said all these weird answers that we said in Rabbi. It says very simple. The Mishnah speaking about it's only Mr. Rabbanan. So Yachal the Rabbanan because it's a net or chal on, and there is not chal ben Torah on an abstract, and these are abstracts. So if that's the case, we keep it Rabbanan bi'amu. How could his neder Rabbanan bi'chal? The lesson Rabbanan ba'alma after mitzvah ona mitzvah period of revia, which is men Torah. The Torah has an obligation of sherik susavona. He has to have bia with her. So how can his neder Rabbanan, which is only chal Rabbanan, because he's asking his hana, right? The hana of the tashmish is also on him. He's not talking about your goof is also to me. I don't want to touch you. If he would make an neder and say, the orange is forbidden to me, your body is forbidden to me, okay, that we understand that's a neder. But the hana is an abstract. If it's an abstract, it's not a neder, but it's only the Rabbanan. So how can a Rabbanan be oker daraisi, yeshlamid, even the nidra miyachal, since the chal is chal mid Rabbanan, the mele pakla hanach mitzvahs, why? The chacham masan like of matorah. The chacham can make a tanai to be oker of matorah b'sheval tasei, just like we do with the Chachamim say that you can't blow shofar on the first day of Rosh Hashanah if it's on Shabbos, or can't take the lulav. Why? Because maybe you'll come to carry it, etc. Right? It's a mitzvah d'oraisa. How can the Rabban with Sheval Tasa they could say that the Rabbanan can't say you should be Machal Shabbos, right? You could be Machal Shabbos. They can't do that. The Sheval Tasa do an action, but the Sheval Tasa you're allowed to. So that's the answer. Even if you say that it's only the Rabbanan, again. From the Ran, you see that if he said your body is prohibited from me, that would be a neder men Torah, and that would be chal. But if he says I'm not going to be with you, that for sure can't be chal because that's a shvua going against the obligation of the Torah. Here Ran asks a beautiful question. Okay, fine. So he prohibited the hana on himself. The hana of the tashmish should be also on him. Amai mitzvah or mitzvah slav lanesenu. It's a mitzvah. He's performing a mitzvah of bia, right? And mitzvah slav lanesenu. It's not considered hana. So what did he do? He prohibited the hana of the tashmish on himself, and then it's chal. Okay, it's chal mid Rabbanan. Fine, it's chal mid Rabbanan, and therefore he can't work it. But mitzvah slav lanesenu. So there's no hana here. They're doing the bia is not having hana. So what's going on? Yesh Shlomo. So this the Ryan goes with his famous shita. Does mitzvah slav v'hensa take away even physical pleasure, or only the psychological pleasure of fulfilling a mitzvah? The Ran knows Yesh Lomar. What does the Ran say here? Take a look at the Ran 3 lines from the bottom of the page. Yesh Lomar, the fulfillment of the mitzvah is not considered chashuv hana. If his body had physical pleasure, it's considered no. Let's say you make a netter. I'm not going to have enough from that spring. I'm not going to have enough from that spring. There's a spring over there. I don't want to use that for a mikveh. I'm not going to have any enough from it. Talk about something. You can go in the winter when you're going to freeze. Your what off. You're going to freeze yourself off there. Not in the summer, because in the summer you're going to have physical pleasure. So the Ran says mitzvah slav lahesnu, who says the hana I get from fulfilling the mitzvah, the psychological pleasure. The mitzvah, that's not hana. That's not a problem. So, for example, I said the hana of tefillin of asr to me. Not that I can't touch the tefillin, but the hana of using these tefillin should be asr to me. And I put on the tefillin. Is there any physical pleasure I get out of putting on the tefillin? No, it's psychological pleasure. That's not hana. That's not hana. That's what it's up here. This is a famous machlokas here. The Ran, the Rashba holds otherwise. The Rashba says even physical pleasure, you're not allowed to have hana. Even physical pleasure is taken away by the mitzvah. So the Mefarshim say, according to the Ran, how do you say over here that in the winter, you can use the mikvah. In the summer, you can't use the mikvah. Why not? Mitzvah slav l'hensa. Not like the Ran. The Ran says if you're having physical pleasure, and obviously with Bia, people have physical pleasure, so that's a place. So there is hana there. So he asked for himself. The kasha was you're not allowed to. He prohibited the physical pleasure on himself, and that's a netter. There's no physical pleasure. It's a mitzvah. The answer is no. Physical pleasure there is. Physical pleasure, the mitzvah slav doesn't take away the physical pleasure. But according to the Rashba, I think it's the Rashba who argues with the Rashba, even physical pleasure takes away. So the answer is that it takes away the physical pleasure when you're makayim the mitzvah. But afterwards, there's physical pleasure too. Maybe in the case of Bia, there's physical pleasure afterwards. After he finishes the Bia, there's physical pleasure that he feels comforted, he feels better afterwards. In the case of the mikvah, if he goes to the mikvah in the summer, and the Ran says he's not allowed to have enough from the mikvah, right? And he goes into the mikvah. According to the Ran, you can't go into the summer because you're having physical pleasure. According to Rashba, even physical pleasure is removed by mitzvah slav l'hensa. Yes, but when he comes out of the mikvah, he's finished with the mitzvah. He has a physical pleasure there. Did you ever come out of the pool, out of the mikvah, out of the shower? You feel good afterwards, right? That pleasure is prohibited because that's not Pshas mitzvah. It says the Mishnah, shvu she'en yashin. He says a shvu, I'm not going to sleep. I'm not going to speak. She'en mahalach asr. He's allowed to. Now, how long is he's not sleeping? We'll talk about all that we mentioned before. If he says I'm never going to sleep, then it's a shvuas shav. You give him malchus for a shvuas shav, and he can sleep right away. The shvuas not chal. But here he says it's also to sleep. Tomorrow we'll talk about this. Carbon la'ochalacha, hakam she'ochal lokam lecha. All those are mutter. Why are those mutter? Tomorrow we'll explain all this tomorrow. Carbon la'ochalacha possibly is because he's swearing by the life of the carbon. That's meaningless. Hak carbon she'ochalacha, right? He's saying this is the carbon that I do eat of yours, or what does that mean? Or low carbon la'ochalacha. It's not a carbon what I don't eat of yours. Does it go like Rav Meir? This tomorrow we'll explain. Tomorrow we'll see the explanation for all this for this Mishnah. All right, have a good day, everybody. Call through.